row, beginning on Monday. Mike Clemens alongside here tonight. Mike and I are going to be out in Arizona, so in bringing you all the fun and the frivolity and pageantry that is Super Bowl week. But Mike, this is the time we start getting the itch. We're excited.
Yeah, because we meet people from all over the football industry, reporters, media people. Who was that actor that we talked to last year? Guy'd been the Godfather and in that Criminal Minds show. Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we sit down with him. We get to Adam Sandler. Used to come to the Super Bowl every year.
Oh, Adam Sandler. We had Kevin Costner one year that was on the program. We've had numerous actors. We've had television reporters. We had Ron Jaworski. We've had Golick. We've had Stephen A. Smith from years ago. I mean, yeah.
It's not like we're fans or something like that, and we're getting autographs. They come there, and their jaws hang wide open. These people that are in major motion pictures, on television shows, in bands, and they see how big the NFL organization is. And they're all football fans, like everybody that all of our listeners are.
Yep.
And so it's kind of cool to make that connection. So you learn about that, but like I keep telling people, there's a lot of people that we don't have that problem now, but in years past in other companies, we'd have people with budgets that say, well, the Packers aren't in the Super Bowl. What do you want to go there for? Because it's the convention of the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And past great players, coaches, reporters, writers. I mean, it's such a widespread industry. They go there to congregate. And, you also learn some new things that are going on in technology and media, et cetera. You do great yourself, quite frankly, with your show and your crew and, the new advancements that you made with your show and connecting with people tonight on like your YouTube channel and all that. You know who else is going to be out there? Matt LaFleur.
Really?
And he's going to be looking for a secondary coach.
Yeah.
And
he's going to be scouring the group. Okay.
The last time we were at the Super Bowl, we didn't think that maybe Matt LaFleur would be there. As a matter of fact, he's out there hiring his next quarterback coach.
Right.
That's where he met with Tom Clements.
Right.
So, as a matter of fact, I know for a fact that the Green Bay Packers coaching staff has been off since last week after their exit meetings and gatherings. They won't be back in the office till Monday the 13th, the day after the game, which means a lot of them are going to be in Arizona, working, talking, meeting players, getting together with friends.
Right.
They all get tickets to the game if they want to, but the most important thing is that they are there the week of, because everyone's flying out to Phoenix that's in the league, and they're talking and they're asking about questions, and they go out to dinners in the early evenings, and you see the limos pull up, and there's a lot. It's an important networking thing. So I guarantee LaFleur is going to be out there working the network.
It's just the stories that you get when you're there. I mean, I'll never forget being in New York and, I'm sitting down with Leroy Butler and chatting, and here comes Ronnie Lott. And it was one of those conversations where they had the headsets on and I really didn't do much.
Right.
And I just listened to him talk football.
Right.
And it was one of the most scintillating conversations ever.
Yeah.
Obviously we've had the greats of like Jerry Kramer. We had Bart Starr one year that came on. And so,
that's it. You got Ronnie Lott, two guys that Ronnie came before Leroy, but there was a mutual admiration for the both of the way that they played, and they've always wanted to ask those questions like that, and those kinds of things are going on all over the place.
Right.
The other thing is that it's kind of cool. Is like some of the network guys, like you could be 15 years ago, one time I was at a Super Bowl. I can't remember exactly which city we were in, but there was Pat Summerall standing there.
Yeah.
Just standing there. You just go, hey, Pat, how's it going?
Right.
It's fine. Hey, where are y'all from?
I'm watching Murder, She Wrote.
Right. And they're just hanging out. They're looking around. They're looking at the banners. They're seeing what the other networks are doing. And so you get to meet these people, and they're kind of off guard, and they want to hear, so what do you think about Green Bay? They find out where you're from.
Right.
So you give them that local perspective, and that adds to them. That's the best part about it, is that week of just talking football and reaching out. I got so much information last year in LA just there's people that I've, that in the media that I've worked for or worked alongside, but never actually been in the same room with.
Right.
And they say, "Are you Mike?"
Right.
And you make these connections like that, and it just makes you better as a reporter, as a coach, as a player, to see those people face to face and build those relationships.
It's always a good time in the sense that you on opening night, you get a chance when they introduce both teams. You get a chance. Some of the larger players, the quarterbacks, head coaches, and things, they sit at their podium, but a lot of the players just walk around. And you don't ever get that kind of access with these guys. And they're as excited as you are. They've got cameras out and phones out, and they're recording everything. And they're recording you, recording them. And, you've got, media night is always kind of a crazy night on opening night, which this year it'll be Monday, 6 o'clock their time, Mountain Time, 8 o'clock our time. But when the teams arrive and you get a chance to walk around and you get a chance to see Jalen Hurts and talk with Patrick Mahomes, talk with Andy Reid, talk with the Kelseys. I mean, you get a chance to throw a microphone in their face for a couple of minutes and just have a conversation.
Well, the greatest interview of all time, I think, for your show is when the well-known agent Lee Steinberg comes up and says, "I've got this kid from Texas that you might want to talk to."
Yeah.
And, and you end up talking to Patrick Mahomes. Matter of fact, let me see if I can dig that up from the archives, because I'd kind of like to play that on Monday if there's time.
Yeah, we could.
Because some of these best ofs that we've done, they're kind of evergreens to play in the show.
I remember when Lee Steinberg came up to us and said, "I got a couple of kids that I'm representing now. You may want to talk to." And he talks about this kid from El Paso, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then he brings this kid over, and I like, "Okay, I'll give him 5 minutes," and I'm doing Lee a favor, and he's kind of winking at me, going, "No, you want to talk to this kid?" And I got another one coming, and the kid's name was Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. And both guys on the show, remember, they wouldn't even let his mom and dad in.
Yeah.
Beyond the ropes. They were sitting like way off behind us.
Right.
And finally I went over and got him and just brought him onto Radio Row. And
a good agent like Lee will do that with those, players to be drafted.
Yeah.
And then you'll see a guy like Aaron Jones as a rookie, as a second year, third year NFL player. He'll come out there because he wants to get in a Doritos commercial.
Oh, yeah.
Something. And so all those marketing guys are out there, the guys that buy the advertising that are going to be spending millions on Super Sunday. They're out looking around. And if they can meet Aaron Jones in person and say, "Oh, this guy's got great people skills. Let's sign him as a spokesperson, and he can be in our commercials, and we can take him to our public events, when we talk to our vendors and everything like that." That's the way it works. And you'll see young players out there like that trying to make those connections to see if someday, some way they can get just a piece of the action that the Mannings have otherwise gobbled up every day.
Right, exactly. And you may see the Mannings out there.
Those games over the weekend, the Mannings were in a different commercial, a different sponsor in every commercial break during the game.
Yeah. And you may see the Mannings roaming around out there before it's all said.
Maybe.
We're hoping to get again AJ Hawk, who was fantastic with us last year. And as a matter of fact, I texted him and said, "Hey, we're coming." And he said, "Hey, how you doing?" That kind of thing. I said, "Hey, if put us on the schedule if we can get Pat."
Sure.
We'd love to get Pat McAfee as well to get him on the program and chat with him a little bit. So I'm going to be doing the show on the Sports Grid with Scott Farrell on Monday. I'll be doing that out there, so we get a little quid pro quo.
How can you get to hear Farrell now? Because he used to be at night on
Farrell
CBS.
is on the Sports Grid. I guess it's the podcast and the video platforms.
Yeah.
I see it all the time on Twitter. I'd have to go specifically look, but I know there's a Sports Grid network. So you can go there and watch that. A lot of people watch it via their phones and watch it on laptops and such, but I'll be doing his show.
He's great.
Yeah. So, and Farrell's always, and he doesn't pull any punches, and he's very colorful when he does do it. So,
Some of the guys that do podcasts now, like Andy Herman.
Right.
Peter Bukowski.
Yeah. Peter Bukowski, Andy Herman, both of the Pack-A-Day podcasts.
They're not around for the game, but they're during the week of.
Right. Yeah. They're grabbing guys. And then we get a chance to talk with, we'll talk with guys from the WIP, WIP from Philadelphia, and Sports Radio 610 down in Kansas City. And we'll have those guys over and chat a little bit about the game. But then, we get our agents that have already hit us up, and we've got, guests already scheduled supposedly. And, Erica's booking away, but we get Hall of Famers and people from, the Wayback Machine, so to speak. And you talk about how the game has grown. And but it all comes back to Green Bay. We used to sell these things to, our program directors and general managers and say, and they'd always say, like you said, well, you're going, but the Packers aren't there. Who cares? And I'd say, oh, no. When you get Ronnie Lott to talk about the glory days playing against the Packers or playing against Leroy Butler, or you can get Joe Montana to come in and talk about Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback and how technically they're good, or you can get the bust, Jerome Bettis came over and talked about the run game and how it's different, how he likes Aaron Jones' game. And I mean, when you get those guys talking about your team, there's a lot more credence and credibility.
You've had Mike Holmgren on.
Mike Sherman.
Last year, Mike Sherman was a blast.
He was fun.
Former Packers head coach. Last year, Joe Theismann came in, who's just excellent.
Yep.
Joe Theismann was excellent. Teammate of Mark Murphy, Packers president. And then we got to talk to Jim McMahon.
Yeah. Oh, that was special. Yeah, that was special last year. A guy who played for both the Bears, won a Super Bowl there, and then came up and then won it with the Packers.
He had that great story how he ended up being the backup for Brett Favre the year the Packers won the Super Bowl with Favre and Holmgren.
Yeah. Yep. No doubt. So obviously Aaron spoke yesterday. You want to get into that after the break?
Sure.
Let's do that. We'll take a little bit of an early break because we got a lot to catch up on. We're also going to have our buddy Grant Bilse from the Wisco Sports Show is going to join us coming up here in a few minutes. Stick around for that. We are broadcasting live. We're at Fox's, and that's in Greenfield. And more than a few people milling around and some bar patrons coming in. We are brought to you by Bud Light. There's some Bud Light specials here tonight as well, and some tchotchke stuff they're giving away, and a lot of stuff regarding the NFL. Bud Light being one of the main sponsors of the NFL again this year. And so a lot of NFL stuff to hand out tonight here as well. Mike's going to grab a burger. We're going to talk to Grant Bilse coming up. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle. It's brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
welcome back to the program. Good to have you. Bill Michaels Huddle, we're on the air. We're here at Fox's. We're in Greenfield. Glad to have you. Saying hi to Gunnar, Jacob, Linda, everybody over on the Bud Light live stream. We're glad you're with us. Mike Clemens alongside. And we'll talk with Grant Bilse coming up a little bit. He's got some things going on, so we're going to touch base a little bit later on in the program. So Aaron Rodgers, Mike, you and I have not talked since he made the appearance yesterday on the Pat McAfee show. Let's start out, first of all, what did you make of all of that? I thought he was first of all, I think he sounds as upbeat as he has in a long time. Last year, he sounded a little more downtrodden after the season. Now he sounds like he's upbeat. He's energized. He's at the Pebble Beach. He's excited. He sounds good.
He's got peace of mind. Still a little bit arrogant. He's himself. He's his own man. I think about, what if I ran into him and for some reason he said, you know what? I want to hear what you have to say. And then what I would say to him, right?
Right.
Directly.
Yep.
And
This is Jet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Because the most important thing, and he said yesterday, was, hey, man, I don't even know what I want to do on my vacation yet. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in this tournament. I signed up for that. But, I got about 20 things I'd like to do. I got to pick between 2 or 3. And then after I sort of arrange my off season, my social life, my time to explore, go to Switzerland and watch how they make Zenith watches that are
Right.
$35,000 a piece. I want to go out and explore, and I want to get away from this stuff because, at the end of the day, I still know that if I'm going to play football for season number 19, it's an 11-month job.
Right.
And it takes over everything in your life, your diet, your mind, your body, working out with the weights, all those kinds of things. So the problem is, man, even when it was supposed to be a short interview, he goes long, and he has these long drifting things, and there's no filter, and he says things that come off so arrogant. Case in point, Romeo Doubs is a really good kid.
Yeah.
From Los Angeles, played at Nevada, and a great talent, as we've seen.
Yeah.
A lot of potential there with Romeo Doubs. So now Romeo, just like we talked about in the last break, some of these young guys are like, okay, there's ways that I can supplement my income. Can I strike while the iron is hot? And I can get some advertising dollars in. And the time to work on that is during the off season. So he has signed up with a sponsor who called a couple of media outlets, and they're probably working him up for interviews next week at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So he's on the CBS Sports Radio on their afternoon show with, I think her name is Maggie Gray. And the Packers have probably set this up, or at least the sponsor has, right? So they're going back and forth, talking about, hey, you had a pretty good year, and you and Christian Watson, you came over there. Nice, easygoing softball, football questions.
Right.
And then one little question, she says, so what's Aaron Rodgers like? I mean,
Which is a very innocent question.
yeah.
It was a very innocent question.
Did he take you out? Like, here's an anecdote. Oh, yeah, he took us out skeet shooting or, whatever, right? And Romeo, who is a really, he's kind of the Morgan Freeman of rookie football players. He's an old soul. He's a really, really good kid. Very focused, very dedicated. Says, he hasn't taken us out. That's all he said.
Yeah.
Not like it's Jermichael Finley. Like, this guy, I can't connect with him. He keeps ignoring me.
It was an innocent answer.
Yeah. Well, he says, and she goes, really? He's never taken out the receivers? No, we see him every day. We see him at the facility.
Right.
If you want to talk to him at lunch, those kinds of things. But he says, I take that back. He says, he was at the Halloween party. Well, they have a team Halloween party every year. But now you and I know, I don't know if we were working with a brand new 22-year-old part-timer at a radio station or network, I think at some point we'd say to them, hey, you want to go grab a sub or something?
Right.
Because we want to get to know them.
Right.
And have answer any of their questions, that kind of thing. So whatever, Rodgers didn't get around to that. Of course, he wasn't there for the offseason.
Right.
I'll bring that up. But anyway, this starts another fire. And on top of that, his friend, Pat McAfee, Every little slight that Aaron Rodgers has, they ask him that during his little time on Tuesdays on podcast.
Right.
And Rodgers seems to like to want to, oh, yeah, I want to put out that fire too. He doesn't even have to bring it up.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
So he's his own worst enemy, but that ends up getting into the news cycle. Aaron Rodgers has to respond to why he's not friendly to, the rookie receivers like Romeo Doubs and never takes them out, right? And this is where the fatigue for the Packer fan comes in. Like,
right.
I'm so tired of it. And take it to the next level. The NFL Network last night with MJ and the other people they got sitting around, Michael Robinson and the other players that they've got up there. They're saying on the NFL Network last night, yeah, we're so tired of the Rodgers story.
Right.
It's not even the Super Bowl week yet.
Right, I know.
And the people who work for the network are dissing who's now the most senior quarterback in the NFL, that they're tired of this Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packer quarterback can't decide if he wants to come back storyline. They're sick of it. And so, what does Matt LaFleur or Brian Gutekunst or Mark Murphy care about that storyline? They're there to sell tickets. They're there to try and win the Super Bowl, win football games.
Uh-huh.
But at some point, that cuts into the morale of your team.
Right. Yeah.
That cuts into the morale of your team. Because if you are Romeo Doubs, or if you're Jack Coco, the long snapper, and you're at a bar like, Fox's Pub here tonight.
Right.
Oh, you're a Packer? So is Aaron Rodgers coming back?
Right.
Yeah. You guys, is he really is he kind of a jerk? Or, that's who wants to be a part of that?
This is the response with all the other stuff woven into it, that Rodgers, when he was asked about
Dobbs
not hanging out with Romeo Dobbs, it's a little long, but take a listen to everything that goes into this. And Rodgers saying something about somebody trying to become a name or make a name for themselves because of him. And I don't know who he's going after here, but take a listen to what Rodgers had to say.
Well, it's the same tired voices, I think, for the most part. It's people that either aren't playing or, weren't anywhere near my level, still trying to have a name on TV, or people that enjoy trying to run with a narrative that makes me look bad. Listen, I'm 100% attendance on every team party. I don't know that every person can say that on the squad, so that's a chance to hang out with me in those venues. I'm damn near 100% every single line dinner. We do some dinners on the road. So I feel like I spend a lot of time with my teammates, and I love that time. Now, there's obviously ones you're closer with than others. Dave and Randall are two of my closest friends on the team. I spend a lot of time with them. Bobby and Alan spent a good amount of time with them as well. Two of my closest buddies on the team. Mason Crosby, go over to his house. But what those guys have in common, especially, Mace and Dave and Randall, is they're in their 30s. The things that I'm thinking about and doing and spending my time doing are a little probably different than a 21 and 22-year-old. After the day is done, I'm not going home playing video games, all night and on Twitch and all these different things the young kids do, which is awesome. I have no problem with that. Hey, you spend your time wherever you want to spend it, but I'm just not maybe having the same interests. So I love Rome's. I enjoy playing with Rome's. I enjoyed our conversation in the room. I enjoyed seeing his personality come out. But there's two types of leaders, and there's leaders that want to be liked first and foremost and respected second. And there's leaders that want to be respected first and foremost and liked second. And I think one type of leadership makes you make decisions that are based solely in never wanting to be the bad guy. And I've just never really resonated with that type of leadership. Obviously, we all, on a human level, want to be appreciated and liked. But from a leadership standpoint in the locker room, I want to be respected. I want the guys to respect my work, to respect how I hold myself accountable and hold them accountable. And to me, that's how you model like leadership that actually sticks and lasts in this league. And I think there's been a couple people over the years that haven't been able to handle that very well. We've had bad experiences on the way out, and that's fine. That's their experience. Life is about perspective, and truth is actually wrapped up in that perspective. Because our truth is going to be related to how we view the world. There's three sides to every story, though. There's yours, there's mine, and there's the truth. So we got to remember that whenever we're thinking about basically any type of story, that our perspective directly impacts the way that we view the world and the way that we feel about what is truly going on in situations. That to be said, I love my teammates and love spending time with them. And I don't give a shit about any of the other comments outside of that. It's I'm enjoying my life right now.
He clearly didn't hear the interview.
No, Tom Fanning, the PR director, the PR guy that helps him say, hey, here's what's going on in the news. Here's what, they might bring up,
Right.
He feeds him these stories because he's out trying to work on his game for the Pro-Am this week, at Pebble Beach. The point is this. You can be standing next to Aaron on a Thursday or Friday and he's at his locker, and he might actually say to a couple reporters, hey, have you guys heard this? What is this crap? And then you said, yeah, we did see it. What's the story? And then he'll start saying, so a week or so ago, somebody hacked into my Twitter account and they started putting on all these claims about me and Bitcoin. Now, I've done some endorsements for it, but I mean, Twitter shut down my account for a few hours.
Right.
And then, when the guy is talking to you like that, you realize it ain't easy being him or famous or whatever, right? It's, famous guy problems, right?
Yeah.
The point is, though, he's so articulate, but everything he has to do is so calculated, and that's because it just doesn't come naturally to him.
Right.
Relating to these different people, he has to work at it. And so he has to say to himself, I'm going to come in there and I'm going to walk tall and not say hello to anybody and let everybody in the room, my teammates, the coaches, trying to figure out what kind of mood I'm in today. Right. I mean, that's what it comes down to. But you see, those players, those coaches, LaFleur on down, they love him for how smart he is. And that at the core, he's a really good guy with, high ethics and all that. Yeah. But, he's just off in his own little world where he's so intelligent and he has to draw on so many different things of information. And I don't know if he's necessarily judgmental of other people because the rest of the world isn't as smart as he is, but he wears you out. He wears you out living at that level. And, it would just be so much more simple if every once in a while, just go have a beer and chill, man.
Right.
Rather than instead of, I've got Mercedes and I got Dave and I got Randall, and I'm going to go over their house and I'm going to talk about, well, how do you think this part of the room is working? What do you think about these guys? Well, how do you think I should do this? Am I doing too much of that? That's what he does. Yeah. That's what he does. And that's why his life is the way it is right now. He complicates things where it could just be so, it seems to us, it could be so much more simple. We found out during the Last Dance, all the crap that Michael Jordan went through.
Right.
He's working for a team that seemed to be working against him and putting up with crazy teammates like Dennis Rodman, and the competition and the private stuff with the personal things in his life, and the gambling and all that kind of stuff. These guys lead complicated lives. No question about it. But as I think guys like Mercedes and Randall are pretty good sounding boards for him. And that's why this is so critical.
That's why he hangs on to them. Yeah.
That's why he needs them.
Yeah.
He needs them to get through this stuff. But it's just not as easy for him. Whereas on the other hand, the last guy, Favre, people love that guy.
Yeah.
And even though he's a jerk to his teammates, a lot of stuff that Rodgers saw, they're dog and cat personalities. They're completely different personalities.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. And that's why I said when Rodgers said it's, somebody never played and trying to make a name for themselves, it was like it's Maggie and Moose show on CBS. And they just asked a very anonymous, unopinionated, unpointed question.
And on top of that, he brought it up. They brought it up on his own show, if you will,
with
McAfee. No one was really paying attention to that story
anymore
until they brought it up on there.
It up again. Yeah, no doubt. Let's do this. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to come back. Got a lot more to get to. Broadcasting live. We're at Fox's. We're in Greenfield, Wisconsin, which is where you can find it. We're brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. They are the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Stay tuned. We got more coming up right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute.
What's that? Yeah. You want to stay over there and eat?
Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. It's the Bill Michaels Huddle, and we are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We are at Fox's, and we're right here just off of 76th Street in Greenfield. If you want to swing by and say hello, we'd be glad to bring you in. Our good friend Grant Bilse now joining us from the Wisco Sports Show. Grant, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, and I see that you have Mr. Mike Clemens with you tonight as well. I miss Mike. I miss our twice weekly conversations about all the losses that the Packers took this year. I miss chatting with Mike.
He is also, he's normally sitting next to me. He is grubbing down on his food as you and I sit here and talk, but Mike gives you a wave and says howdy. So, hey, first of all, I want to ask you, I'd asked Mike, and I'll ask you the same thing. So, you and I have not spoken since Aaron Rodgers talked on Tuesday, and I don't think it was anything negative. I don't think it was anything. I just, the only part that I kind of thought about, took a little back to was the part about Romeo Doubs when he talked about people trying to make a name for themselves and taking shots. And I'm like, that was a very innocent conversation. It's something he might not have gotten the full grasp of. But other than that, give me your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers' comments to Pat McAfee.
Well, yeah, I actually played that clip at the end of my show, and we were just kind of laughing about it. It was your classic Aaron Rodgers McAfee conversation. They didn't really say much, and that's kind of how it is every week. But the Romeo Doubs thing is weird. It's like Rodgers could have left it at, he's 20 years younger than me. He's got friends. I got my friends. Not everyone is buddy in the locker room, and that's as simple as that. He could have left it there, but then he went on this long rant about how, I don't know, the haters, and he said there's three sides to every what did he say? There's three sides to every story, yours, mine, and the truth. And I'm like, what is this? But also that's kind of why I love listening to Rodgers, is he just talks himself in these weird circles, and I don't know, it's kind of interesting. But yeah, for the most part, they didn't say much about anything on Tuesday. The Romeo Doubs thing was whatever. It was classic Rodgers. The one thing that kind of jumped out to me, Bill, that was weird is Rodgers said, well, I hear there's trade talks about me going on, and I'm not a part of those talks, which is weird. And then the next thing he said was, but, I've been in Nashville, and I've been insulated. It's like, well, dude, you can't completely go away on vacation to get away from everything and then get mad when things happen without you. That made me laugh a little bit.
Well, it's also, they don't want to be calling him with everything. And when you talk about conversations or who's having conversations, and I said it yesterday, I said, look, nobody said that they're picking up the phone and calling teams. Maybe there's some teams that are calling and relaying that, over to his agent or over to Madam Schefter or whomever to say, hey, we had a conversation with the Packers. It doesn't necessarily mean the Packers picked up the phone and said, yeah, we want him gone. We want him out the door. It just maybe meant that Brian Gutekunst picked up the phone and said, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I think, what are they supposed to give Rodgers a courtesy call every time they do something? I don't know. It's your offseason, man. Go enjoy it. And I don't know, make your decision on whether you want to come back or not. I'm pretty darn sure he's coming back. It's really starting to feel like the Packers are going to trade him. I was listening to Albert Breer on Dan Patrick yesterday and kind of heard that. We heard that from Rappaport and Schefter, where it's really starting to sound like the Packers' preferred, route this offseason would be to trade him. I don't know exactly where Rodgers stands on that and how the Packers get that done. Rodgers, was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago on McAfee, basically said, like, look, if my time in Green Bay is done, then I don't want anyone to be bitter. I'm not going to hold any resentment towards Green Bay, and I hope no one holds resentment towards me. So a couple of weeks ago, at least, it seemed like maybe this trade could be done and Rodgers wouldn't be completely upset and mad at the franchise. But I guess I'll believe that 100% when I see it actually happen.
Now that we saw, because I know one of the things that Rodgers was in that conversation, very cognizant of not doing anything this week or next because of the matchup between Kansas City and Philadelphia. And he said, hey, it's their weeks. They deserve that respect. Brady comes out and makes the announcement he's retiring, which is the big story. Not that Aaron Rodgers was taking a slap at Tom Brady, because that was said before, Brady retired. But, I guess, and I said today on the show, I said, February 28th, that's a Tuesday. Maybe that's when everything begins to break. Or on the 27th, the day before he goes on McAfee and says anything. I think he kind of makes a decision before you get into March. And that's probably about a good piece of time for him to say, okay, I'm ready to come back and do what I want to do. I'm kind of thinking in that direction. Are you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to wait forever. A lot of Packers fans have called my show, and I'm sure you hear the same stuff where it's like, well, Rodgers just needs to make a decision, and he needs to. It's like the season's not even over yet. Like, they're fine. The Packers are not being held up. There's no employee that's stuck at 1265 24/7 until Rodgers makes his decision. I'm with you on the Brady Rodgers thing. There's a lot of people who think that the Packers are being held up by Rodgers, and now Rodgers is taking too long. And then those are the same people that turn around and say that Tom Brady is selfish for taking the attention off of the Super Bowl this week. So it's like, I just, sometimes these quarterbacks can't win, especially after seasons that didn't go well. Like, I think people have a little extra angst towards Rodgers right now. And I don't think people feel the same way about Brady, but it's not like he's still in the playoffs. So it's kind of funny how people have reacted to the timing of Brady and Rodgers, because it seems like these guys can't win no matter what they do and when they do it.
I said yesterday, when Rodgers comes back, I don't doubt him, because the last time we doubted him or thought maybe he was slipping a tad, he ended up coming back and having back-to-back MVP seasons. I have a feeling that chip on his shoulder is back, and it's bigger than ever going into next season. Do you?
Yeah, and I got to believe that the Packers are partly thinking the same thing. That's the nightmare, right? Is that he goes somewhere and wins an MVP elsewhere, or lights the world on fire. I don't know. You got to go with the evidence that you have, Bill. And the evidence that we saw last year is that Rodgers has slowed down a bit, and he's 39, so that's okay to say. Like, I think our expectations for Rodgers and how good he should be able to play at this point in his career, we need to temper those expectations. And I just don't think the Packers are at a place with their salary cap and with their roster that they can put a good enough supporting cast around a 39-year-old quarterback to succeed. And for that reason, it doesn't really make sense for them to bring him back, right? Start the next era now, and I think the Packers are thinking that. Hopefully Rodgers feels that too. And, Bill, what if Rodgers comes back and wins MVP? Where did that get them last year? Where did that get them the year before? You know what I mean? So even if Rodgers has a great year left, it hasn't worked in Green Bay. So I don't know why the Packers would cling to that and hold on to him. It just seems like it makes so much sense for these two to part ways this offseason, and I feel like that's probably what's going to happen.
Logically, business-wise, I agree with you for the money and everything that goes into it. I know that Rodgers threw the carrot out there that, obviously what the contract is now is not going to be what the contract is when he comes back. So there's that carrot to gnaw on. And then the second part of it is the sentimental side of me says they all want to run it back together. They want to give it one more go because of legacy and what that would mean if Rodgers would get a second one in Green Bay, Murphy would get a second one in Green Bay, they would get a second one out of Aaron Rodgers, and that would be 4 Super Bowls, 3 of which they won in the 30 years with Hall of Fame quarterback play, as opposed to getting to 3 and only winning 2 with 2 different quarterbacks in that period of time. It sounds more magnanimous if they just get one more, which is why the sentimentality side of me says, I think they're going to run this back one more time.
Well, you're right. It would feel better if they got one more. That's why 2014 is so gut-wrenching. That's why 2020 against Brady at home is so tough. But I don't know. We talk about contracts all the time, Bill, and we say, well, you pay for future. You pay for the future. You don't pay for past performance, right? I don't think the Packers, looking back on the last 30 years and thinking, oh, man, we messed up, and then making decisions based off that is smart, right? And I don't know, Bill, I was thinking a lot about Brady today and reading some things and listening to a lot of TV and radio people give their Brady takes. And it's interesting how we judge quarterbacks pre and post Brady, because there were quarterbacks that were thought of as all-time greats who had won maybe 2 Super Bowls. Like Elway might be one of the greatest ever, and he had 2. And now if Mahomes only wins 2, that's a disappointment, right? If Aaron Rodgers only wins 1, that's a major disappointment. So it's interesting how Brady has changed how we grade quarterbacks. I'm not making excuses for the Packers and Rodgers, because they definitely should have been at least back to 1, probably 2 more Super Bowls. They let some great opportunities go, but it didn't happen. And you can celebrate 2010, and you can celebrate Favre's Super Bowl and all the great times had with Aaron Rodgers, and try to split nicely and amicably. I'm not saying that we need to trash the guy or that he should trash Green Bay on his way out of town. But I think looking back and thinking, what could have been, that's a dumb way to build the team moving forward. What's past is past, Bill. What's happened has happened. You got to move on.
Real quick before I let you go, who you got in the Super Bowl? You got Kansas City or Philadelphia, and why?
I'm just going to say Kansas City, because I just don't want to pick against Mahomes. I don't. And I love the Eagles. I think the roster is unbelievable. I have a hard time grasping how they were able to put together this roster with the salary cap and with they're just on another level. I think Patrick Mahomes is him. He's that good. And I also think Kansas City's pass rush and Chris Jones is unbelievable. And I think if he's able to at least make a little bit of an impact against Jalen Hurts, that might be enough. So I'll pick Mahomes, but that's not to say the Eagles aren't spectacular, because they are.
Grant, good
Hell
stuff.
off the show.
That's from one Ben Kenny, Philadelphia Eagles fan. Ben, Grant, great stuff as always, man. I appreciate it, and we will touch base soon down the road. Thanks for being with us all year, too, okay?
Yeah, of course, Bill, and have fun at the Super Bowl next week. Have a good time.
All right, bud. Talk to you later. There you go. Grant Bilse of the Wisco Sports Show joining us for a couple of minutes on the hotline, and Grant's been with us pretty much all season long, so we appreciate his participation in the huddle and each and every week, each and every Wednesday night. Let's do this. We're going to step out. Mike Clemens going to climb back in with us. Hang in there. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle, brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We've got more coming up right after this.
Let we go. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
So because Aaron Rodgers did a great thing for Rich Bisaccia and talking about what a great leader that he is and a good coach. He's very knowledgeable. He knows all three phases of the game.
Yeah.
And he had that good run as the interim coach of the Raiders. But Rodgers took that shot at LaFleur to say, players at the end of the day, they don't like a guy that they like. They like a guy that they respect.
Right.
Sean Payton tells a great story where, he said he was talking about what the 49ers face going into Philadelphia and that there's certain roads where they, you get on the bus and you're driving in and the Philly fans are just waiting for the visitor's bus and they're going to throw stuff at the windows. So he said he remembered that from years past. So he's getting this one team ready together with the Saints. And it's a new group of guys, and they haven't been there in a while, right? So they hadn't played there. And so he told them on Friday or Saturday, okay, then we're going to go to the team hotel, all right? Then on game day, we're going to leave our team buses, our 5 buses, and we're going to go to the link, all right? But there's going to be this one spot there where the guy sitting in the right-hand side, be ready because the fans are going to be there throwing stuff at you. And then to even have some fun with it, the players and captains got into it. They put targets. They put huge targets, bullseyes, on the side of the bus. Like, come on, bring it.
Right.
And sure enough, when they went down that road, there were the fans waiting, and they were a little taken back, like, what's with the targets? But they went ahead and started throwing stuff at the bus. But Sean Payton says, you see, that's what you need to do with a coach with these guys. You need to tell them, here's what's going to happen. Here's when it's going to happen. Here's how it's going to happen. And when things happen just the way that you told them and predicted and forecast, that's when they buy in.
Yeah.
That's when they trust you. That's when they say, this guy knows what he's talking about, and I'm not going to get embarrassed. I'll follow that guy.
Right.
That's the kind of guy that Rich Bisaccia is.
Well, first of all, I hope that he doesn't go. I hope that they hang on to him and he's still the guy. Because he did a hell of a job with special teams this year, I think, overall. The special teams improved. But I also think that Rich Bisaccia is a great sounding board for Matt LaFleur, like Mike Pettin was.
On the other side of the coin, how bad – I told you about this at last Friday's show that Jerry Gray was already talking to the Falcons.
Right.
And he went. And now Joe Barry's got to find a new secondary coach, and I don't think he's got one. And the young guy that's coaching the safeties right now.
Right.
What kind of signal does that send to Jair and the rest of those guys? That Jerry Gray said, I want out of here.
And those were the guys that weren't buying in.
That's a mess, man.
Yeah. That
a mess
weren't
for
buying
LaFleur.
in. I completely agree with you. It's when
Not
you
a
heard
good sign.
And when Jerry Gray was the guy that got guys fired up, when Jerry Gray was the guy now, don't get me wrong, it was Kevin Green that got guys fired up during the championship run, and not necessarily Dom Capers. He's not that rah-rah guy. But, when Jerry Gray's got to be the guy to get in your rear end and not your D coordinator, the guy that's calling the shots, you're right. That's a little disconcerting. 1 hour down, 1 hour yet to go. We are broadcasting live. We're here at Fox's. We're in Greenfield. If you want to swing by, say hi. We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. They have specials tonight, food specials tonight, all kinds of good stuff. Come on out and say hi. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle, brought to you again by Bud Light. Stay tuned. We got more right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Wisconsin will make its way to Ohio today. It's really going to take on Ohio State tomorrow. Desperate for a win since rising to number 14 in the country in early January. Badgers have lost 6 of the last 7 games, now sit in 11th place in the Big Ten. Senior Tyler Wall has been through stretches like this before in his career.
Well, it's just the Big Ten. You're going to go through some spurts where things aren't going your way, but it's how you respond. I know this team is pretty good. We all rely on each other, and that's what we got to do right now. We got to pick each other up and show up at practice and work hard.
The problems for Wisconsin have really shown up when the other team makes a run. That included in their last game against Illinois, which went on a 22-4 run to take control of the game in the second half.
I feel like in the beginning of the year, we were doing a pretty good job of limiting the stretches or the runs that the other teams would have, and we'd respond well. Right now, we just haven't been able to get a stop on defense. They go on their runs, and then we call a timeout, and nothing really happens. Or they just continue to do whatever they want to do.
Again, it'll be Wisconsin at Ohio State tomorrow night. Turn to the Bucks. They will be in action tomorrow when they host the Clippers. Milwaukee's won 5 straight games. Their second longest winning streak of the season has pushed them into second place in the Eastern Conference, just 2 games back of top-seeded Boston.
Want to save even more at Fleet Farm? Well, now you can with Fleet Rewards. It's free to sign up, and there's no credit card required. Using Fleet Rewards is easy. Earn points every time you shop. Plus, get exclusive member offers, birthday and anniversary perks, free tire rotations, and more. Download the Fleet Farm app or create an account at fleetfarm.com/rewards to start earning points today. Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
Well, as Tom Brady announced his retirement this morning, now everyone waiting to hear from Aaron Rodgers and whether he'll continue to play or hang it up. Quarterback said yesterday he's still a couple of weeks from a decision. He does want to play. He and the Packers are going to sit down and see if that's going to be in Green Bay or somewhere else. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heilprin.
Are you ready for some football? He talks green and gold. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Welcome back to the program. We are broadcasting live. We're doing the show here. The last huddle of the season. We are live at Fox's in Greenfield. If you want to come on out and say hello, I'm Bill Michaels alongside Mike Clemens joining us here this evening. Ben Kenny producing the program back in the studios. And would love to have you join us out here tonight. We're brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. And they're running specials out here, food specials out here. How was the burger?
Excellent.
Yeah, good?
Yeah, very good. Very good.
I can't remember a place we've ever had really bad food.
No, but they got it going good there. It's got that nice smoke flavor to it as well. Yeah.
Good stuff. So Mike had the burger. I ate the buffalo chicken wrap a little bit earlier today. So good stuff.
They serve it with tater tots.
Yeah, you can choose. You can have fries, tater tots, chips. Or,
it worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
Go face first in the tots. By the way, Alexander says 2024 Super Bowl in Vegas. Packers, Bills, book it. There you go. In Vegas, he's calling.
Who?
A guy named Alexander on the Bud Light live stream.
Which teams?
Packers, Bills.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Could you buy it?
Yeah. I don't know. I think Green Bay's got a lot of problems right now. I don't know. I don't know why 2 weeks after losing, we lost. You're 3 for 4 against the Detroit Lions right now.
Right.
Let that sink in a little bit. There's a lot of issues going on.
Yeah, and a lot of backhanded talk after that the Packers loss to the Lions, saying, "Yeah, you shouldn't lose to a team like us."
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, no doubt. So what does this team need? I've said if I had a wish list top 5, I'd say another veteran wideout, and there's a lot of talk about DeAndre Hopkins possibly the Packers picking him up. Bettors in Vegas saying this is where he's going to land. Tight end, you got to upgrade the tight end position if you can. I would go for more beef up front on the defensive front. You're probably going to need a safety if Adrian Amos isn't back, so you're going to need to go safety and add some depth in the secondary. But if I had to go kind of top 5, you draft another receiver or two, but you still got to get another veteran in there. Even if you do bring your Randall Cobb back, you need another veteran.
First, I'll circle back to the quarterback situation and remind the jury that, after 2018 and you're playing with a fractured knee and you end up going 6-10 and, Mike McCarthy gets fired, right?
Right.
Against a sloppy loss against a 3-win Arizona Cardinals team. And then Aaron Rodgers, comes back with a new head coach, but then, they go out and say, well, looks like Rodgers is beginning the decline. Let's go out and draft a quarterback.
Right.
Which motivates Rodgers, and he gets 2 MVPs. Would he have been able to get those MVPs if he didn't have Davante Adams? And when you see how good Davante, his skills seem to even jump out even more playing for the Raiders. If you watch some of those Raiders games, maybe Davante was the MVP. I mean, really.
Right.
And look how much of a drop-off that was.
There's the chicken and egg. What's more valuable, a great wide receiver or a quarterback to throw you the football? I think they have to go hand in hand.
Even Aaron Rodgers said recently, we all know that MVP is basically which quarterback has got the best stats. And I never understood that, why it's 100% stats. To me, that's lazy by the voters of
Yeah.
it, because I think you have to watch the games. To me, George Kittle, if they get to the Super Bowl, and MVP should be awarded after the season's over with,
Right.
not just for what happens during the regular season. But a guy like that, is a huge motivational, exciting player. A guy who comes up with clutch plays. Maybe he doesn't have 15 catches every game, but whatever the case. So that's just a thought I've had about what's going on there. They say that Aaron Rodgers, though, was as good a vocal leader as he's ever been in his 18 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
It would help if the quarterback showed up for more off-season workouts. I asked him about that. He gave me a smirk, and he said, listen, I don't need to be here for wide receiver 101. I'm the 200 level class. Someone needs to change his mind on that. No, these guys need reps with you, Aaron. They need
to
reps
hang with you. You need to learn who they are and what they can do.
Yeah, you missed out on 100 passes that Christian Watson could only imagine, week 6 or 7, Maybe if you'd been here in the offseason, there had been a few more reps, he catches that ball on the first play against Minnesota. Yeah. So those kinds of things, you have to fix that first. After that, I think you still got 2 great running backs. I think your offensive line is going to be healthier. I think Bakhtiari will be able to play now every week. You went through a lot through that.
Yeah.
Will Robert Tonyan can he come back? Because they were not happy with him by midseason. And when he finally started getting some looks and plays drawn up for him, Matt LaFleur said, yeah, it's nice to see him coming back. So there was stuff that Tonyan
It took him a while to come back.
Well, not only physically, but apparently there are things that he could have or should have been doing that LaFleur was not happy about. And he would not talk about it. And I would look at, all 22 versions of some of these games. And I keep on seeing him open. You know? And I don't remember him having too many drops, but whatever, there must have been some things that he was doing that Rodgers was not going to him or LaFleur was not happy with, which is why they didn't use him as much, in years past. He finally came on later on, but there was things that LaFleur indicated where Tonyan was not performing to the level. And it wasn't because he was still a guy coming off an ACL or wasn't confident as a player. Probably had to do with blocking. I'm imagining taking out guys downfield, or maybe a little bit better effort on yards after the catch. Those are some of the things that I see going on with the offense. Josh Myers at center, still learning, but seems to be solid. And they've got
Runyon's good.
Yeah, Runyon is good.
Elton Jenkins should be better this year coming off of that ACL.
Josh Nyman got pulled there in one of those games, but at the end of the day, he's, for value's sake, they can do that. I think the number one thing that this team has got to be concerned about on defense is when's Rashawn Gary going to be back? Because that's a torn ACL in the middle of the season, and we see it takes a year plus.
Right.
I'm
thinking at least October, the end of October.
At least, and that would be a year. And he's a linebacker, man.
Right.
He's running all over the field.
He's a linebacker and a leverage guy.
He's got to play in those carpeted fields and domes again.
Right.
And he's going to be more hesitant, I would imagine. But he was in such great shape. He had such great speed. He had such great burst off the ball that you could see in training camp. And it's such a shame that that's happened to him. But you're going to need another edge guy,
Right.
And
Ngabari did admirable.
Yeah, for 4th or 5th round.
Right.
Sure. But there's no depth there.
Right.
They're lucky that Ngabari could play. I mean, he's just one sprained ankle away from a crisis.
Right.
When it comes to, edge pass rusher. So to me, now I don't understand. I didn't think that Smash, Adrian Amos, had that much of a drop off. I don't know where that came from. I don't know if there's something in the coach said or some of the other, beat reporters just determined in, they're watching some of these games. I didn't think he played that bad to me. I think that to me, it's more about Jair Alexander. As fast as he can make adjustments, he'll give up 2 long balls to the stinking Chicago Bears an Equinemius St. Brown and then turn around and make a clutch interception to save the game. That guy needs to grow up a little bit more.
Right.
He makes great coverage, but then he makes cocky mistakes.
Yeah.
If you understand what I mean by that.
Yeah.
So that's a guy that's got to fix it. As for Joe Barry, I don't know. He praises everyone. He must know enough to have adjusted or worked with the players to get away from the zone scheme that he had that the Vikings, tore up with Justin Jefferson week 1, and then they seemed to have a better coverage or cohesive unit in the secondary toward the second half of the season. But he's not going to change. I mean, he's still going to be a nice guy, who works hard and tries to come up with here's what the next offense is and here's the things that we need to attack. But whether or not he inspires, because at the end of the day, in the middle of the season, you got the head coach saying, yeah, we counted 22 missed tackles in yesterday's game.
Right.
Well, that's heart.
Right.
That's heart.
That's willingness to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. And Mike, it's funny because at that point in the season when they were starting to fall off defensively and you thought, oh boy, they're losing, it's starting to seep in. And I said, there's an effort that some guys have and some guys don't. And if you're going through the motions, you still want to perform. You still want to look good. You're going man to man, and you're still playing for your contract and such. But if you don't have that winning mentality, it's that half a step that puts you with a shoulder into somebody's gut or an arm tackle that they break. It's that simple. So when things like that start to crop up, you can start to feel, here comes the losing. It's starting to seep in. And then the switch flipped in the fourth quarter of that game against the Bears, where you could kind of feel it, where they went, we can't lose. We can't lose this, or we're done. And then they realized with their backs against the wall, here we go. And then things started to work out from there until they ended up getting beat by Detroit. But it just seemed like they were just kind of going through the motions for a while.
Think of the Vikings defense. Harrison Smith still back there. Zadarius Smith, added to that group. Pretty good performances, at least in the start of the season, from the defensive line. But Ed Donatel gets fired. It seems like it's a lot harder to hang on to a job in this league as a defensive coordinator than an offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. It just seems that way. And so he's fired, and that's up for grabs. I mean, the rarities, if you get a good defensive coordinator like a D'Amico Ryans who can pick up and take up right after Robert Saleh left off with a hard-hitting, physical, aggressive team, well, it helps when you got a general manager who says, I don't care what their Wonderlic score. It's just as long as they go out there and they kill people.
Right. Right.
And you get a great defense like they had with the 49ers. Next thing you know, you've gone through 2 defensive coordinators to get hired away as head coaches.
Right.
So I'm trying to think of what Matt does at this point. There's still time. He could change his mind on Joe Barry, but I don't know. I don't understand. They haven't got that much money left for free agency. If the quarterback comes back for $59.5 million,
that's just it. Rodgers made that comment and dangled that carrot that said, well, that won't be the number. As if to say, he talked about numerous things. He talked about the contract, and he talked about voidable years. And I mean, there was that mention, but you got to get the sense that regardless of what happens, he knows that number needs to be adjusted before he comes back to play.
You've interviewed Scott Pioli at Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a guy who he was brought up through the ranks and was a young GM helping out Belichick in the early 2000s. And everybody had a lot of respect for him. And later we kind of figured out with his time with the Falcons and with the Chiefs and all that, I mean, he was basically, running and getting the grocery. Belichick is coming up with the grocery list, right? Yeah. Whatever the case, though, he tells the story that by the second or third year, when they knew how good Brady was, that Brady would say to him, you know what? I know what the market value is, but I'll take a cut. But you have to promise me you're going to use it all up to the salary cap so that I get, the best
right
left guard that we've got guys that get an edge rush going on the defensive side of the wall. And that was the deal that they made. And that worked really good for them year after year after year.
Right.
And it's great if Aaron wants to come out of this where he's not only the highest paid player in the league, one of the highest paid players in the history of the sport, where he's making more than Roger Goodell this year, all that kind of stuff. There's so many things he's followed Tom Brady on. There's the next one he's got to follow on.
Yeah. Yeah. If he, you can't come back for that number and then think you're going to have a team around you to win a championship.
No.
He has to know. I agree with you. And he's not going to be the highest paid player in the league anymore. Joe Burrow's about to get paid.
Yeah.
And they're talking a ton of money and a ton of years down in Cincinnati that is going to make that man the richest quarterback and the richest player in league history. Let's do this. We're going to step out and take a quick break. Mike Clemens alongside.
Maybe they will have the name Burrowhead after.
Maybe it will be.
Stadiums
Maybe it will be. Paycor Stadium may mean just that. They paid a man. Paycor, pay company, pay Joe Burrow, because they got Burrow, they got Jamar Chase, they got T. Higgins, they got Tyler Boyd, they've got Hurts, their tight end. They've got 5 defenders, starters on defense that all want to get paid. They got some. I mean, this might have been their window. Now their window starts to go and get a lot smaller because everybody's not coming back next year because of that money. Let's do this. We're going to step out, take a quick break. We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We are at Fox's tonight for the last huddle of the season. So if you want to come out and say hello, please do. We're at Fox's. We're in Greenfield, Wisconsin. Right off of 76. You can't miss it. Come on over and say hello. We'd be glad to say hi to you. More of the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
nearly enough. Our friends at the Milwaukee Admirals, Pella Windows and Doors, also the Water Doctors, our friends at Quick Trip, New Mail Medical, Wisconsin Harley Davidson, Burn Pit Barbecue, and everybody there, all the veterans and such that they support and work with, and thanks to them. Also, our friends at Lux Golf. Go to luxgolfbays.com. Thanks to our friends at the Four Seasons Island Resort up in Pembine. Certainly appreciate them. Kane & Kane Jewelers. Our friends at Robert's Specialty Meats. Dwayne's Cover It All. And we can't forget about Potawatomi Hotel Casino as well. So thanks to them also for being a part of the program. Getting back at it, Mike Clemens alongside. This is, Jacob says, I think the Packers really should move on from Aaron Rodgers. It's Jordan Love time. In my opinion, Rodgers isn't getting it done. And it goes on from there. Now, two things there. We don't know what Rodgers is going to be like next year. If Rodgers has a great season, then all the people that said he's done, he's finished, it's time to move on, those people will not say a word. They just fade away. If they do bring him back under the optimistic guise that the last time we doubted him, he came back with a vengeance and kicked ass, and he doesn't, then people say, I told you so. It's a year too late. You missed the opportunity. His value is going down. And then the people say, well, it's Jordan Love time. Is it Jordan Love time?
Man, I asked Brian Gutekunst in the middle of a half-hour, 35-minute conversation, press conference. I said, so let me ask you a question. You know, in the middle of this 5-game losing streak, why wouldn't you go to the backup instead of starting the guy with the fractured thumb?
Right.
And he said, because, and I think he was thinking I was one of these guys that say, oh, Aaron Rodgers is hurt. Let's see what the new guy looks like.
Right.
Let's have a little preseason tryout. No, I'm saying to win this week against the Jets or to win this week against the Commanders at home.
Or the Lions game where Rodgers looked bad.
Yeah.
Any one of those games you win and you're in the postseason.
The starter has a fractured thumb and he's missing some throws. And you know, if you go 500 right here, you want the starter to be 100% with that thumb. And he's even said, gosh, I wish we had the bye right now, because if I had the bye, I could probably get better. Create your own bye and rest him for a week. And oh yeah, by the way, you get to see you get to see more of Love on tape, right?
Right.
And his answer was, we're going to do whatever we can to win the football game. And so that's the way we made those decisions.
He said at
so
one
what
point,
he's saying is, yeah, I'm not giving up in the season. We're always here to win a game. We're always here to win a game. We're not going to tank, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think that Jordan Love could win the game.
That's exactly right. He said Aaron gives us the best chance to win, even with a broken thumb.
Yeah. And then you ask him about Jordan Love. Say, no, he's made great progress. We think that he can be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. But, and he'll underscore this, in that category, they're not all Brock Purdy's where they go 7-0.
Right.
Okay? It takes a whole season for them to get up before this. As Gutekunst would say, before a quarterback knows how to win a game, knows how to close out a game.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense because you know what? They went through that with Aaron Rodgers in 2008.
Right.
A lot of close games. Just needed a couple more plays there that could have perhaps made the difference in the clutch. So that's where they're at with that. I know now. I talked about this 3 years ago, but I know now for a fact the majority of the locker room is ready for Jordan Love. Because the majority of the locker room is 24, 25 years old.
Right.
And they're tired of grandpa.
Like you said, that becomes mentally weighing when the drama surrounds the quarterback about will he not, and all their winning is tied to this guy. And playing at his level and the cerebral side of things. And, he's on the pedestal. We're still in the 20s. We're playing video games. He's above that. All of that stuff. It creates a separation. But while they have Jordan Love's back, and I'm trying not to give things away here. There's guys that have said, look, when he's ready, that guy's we got his back in that locker room.
It was only 10 plays, but the spark was there against the Philadelphia Eagles.
So my question is, do they look at Rodgers with that level of respect, or do they look at Rodgers as they're just biding their time till he's gone?
They're biding their time. They're biding their time. You know, I've told the Sammy Watkins story.
Yeah.
There's a veteran receiver who says, "Yeah, man, I'm sorry, I missed this. I mean, that's the signal.
Right. The little tug on the jersey.
Yeah, I was supposed to go left. I missed that tug on the jersey, and that's why I ran the route as he called in the huddle. I didn't go to the corner where he threw the ball
Right.
to vacant real estate, and we could have scored a touchdown to tie up or win a football game like that." Sammy Watkins can't figure out what this guy wants. Imagine how tough the pressure is on Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs. And I don't fault Dobbs. I don't think he's being disloyal to Rodgers or the organization, or already being, got an oversized head, anything like that. But Romeo Doubs said the other day in that interview, they said, "What do you think about Jordan Love?" Well, he's right. He can play.
Yeah.
Jordan can play. Listen, I played him in college, Nevada against, Utah State. We played him. He's a good quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. So, this is the problem that they've got, is that as smart as Rodgers is, as many times as he saves LaFleur and Stenovich's bacon, at the line of scrimmage by changing into the right play, and teaching these guys, as we go in the games, the things that Love is learning, that hopefully he can get half of that. That's where it is. But at the same time, this guy can make it so complicated that they don't have the very flow that Aaron talks about getting them in. He ends up taking them out of rhythm. The team that's going to the Super Bowl has got a quarterback named Jalen Hurts, whose cadence is go, go, go. Go
Right.
on three.
Right.
We use that in Pee Wee football.
Right.
He's going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
It's not blue 58, green 19, all that crap that he does to try and get 5 stinking yards.
Right.
Just snap the damn ball. Run up to the line and run and get a playoff before the defense even knows is still making,
Or before the
changes.
clock runs out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't get why Aaron doesn't see that.
I said for him to be a great leader, now being a more vocal leader is fantastic that he did that this year. That was the reports that he was probably more vocal than he's been in a long time, or ever been for that matter. But I said, you got to great leaders lower themselves to the lowest level to raise up all the ships. They don't let you drown beneath their water. And I get the sense at times, like Rodgers is, I'm up here, you need to play with me up here, rather than saying, you're not getting it, so let's just do what we can do to make you be better. You know what I mean?
I can tell
Which is kind of what you're saying in a Cliff Notes version.
I can tell you for a fact he was very open, off the record, about a couple of things were going on in the middle of the season, personnel.
Yeah.
And that,
Who, Rodgers was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then those of us that cover the team would kind of confer with that and say, what? There's some guy he might want to have. Why don't they bring up this guy from the practice squad rather than put this guy in,
right,
the 5-year veteran, blah, blah. Why don't they do this when they're just, and it's like, there's times where he's made those kinds of calls, and you got Alan Lazard, hey, bring up that guy from the practice squad. He's pretty good. Or, even when it came to Devondre Campbell, Rodgers said, halfway through, who's that guy?
Right.
Over there at inside linebacker. Man, that he seems to know every move we're making over here.
Right.
So, he makes good calls at that. There's other times where he was pretty open about some things off the record, and you're like, they were head scratchers.
Yeah.
Like, man, dude, you're flailing. You just run the plays.
Right.
Understand what you're putting through these other guys.
Yeah.
And then of course, you get 4.3 speed, 6'3" in Christian Watson, and he runs these slants and puts his hands up, and boom, he's gone for 75 yards. It helps to have speed and talent,
and he did it with ease.
Yeah,
he made it look
easy. With
easy.
Yeah. So this is not easy for Gutekunst to decide. It's not easy. And I still think in their hearts, they want to get to a point where they say, 5 years from now, people are going to say, why couldn't you get Aaron Rodgers back to a Super Bowl? Why didn't you get him some more help?
Yeah.
So they're trying everything they can. And at the same time, they're trying to keep communications open with them. And they've made all kinds of other changes in the last 3 years around that place. Matt LaFleur has tried to do it. And, they kept his gang of 6 players from Mercedes Lewis, Randall Cobb, and those guys on down.
Yeah.
Mason Crosby. But at some point, they've got to say, look at the guys we did bring in. Look how much talent they are. Look at when we can bring in a guy off the street like Keyshawn Nixon, who we've been watching
They
on
got to
tape
sign that
for
guy.
2 years.
Yeah.
We've been watching him for 2 years. Aaron, trust us, man. We can get you guys.
Yeah.
They're not all Sammy Watkins. We can get you guys. But you know what? 6 of these roster spots are taken. Give me 3 back.
If Rodgers, how do I put this? Because we talked about the Tom Brady aspect of this thing. If Rodgers says, I'll do this to give money, to adjust the money or whatever he has to do to get, because they're 17 million over right now. So I'll give money. I'll get you there. Is Rodgers doing it to keep Mercedes, to bring back Randall? David's obviously here. Bakhtiari is. Is he doing it for those guys? Or is he doing it to say, I need some more help? To bring in another wide receiver, give me another weapon that's a veteran that I can work with, that's going to be complimentary, to give me a better right tackle, to go get a better, outside edge rusher when Rashawn Gary's still down with the knee. I mean, is he doing it for that, or is he doing it to bring his guys back?
I don't know. My sense is that Brian Gutekunst is still a Ted Thompson molded guy, that maybe part of the problem is he's really not telling Aaron everything that he thinks.
Right.
I think he's appeasing him, but I'm going to guess that's still there. It's still my roster, and I'll let you know what I think about you when you tell me if you're coming back.
Yeah.
Because after that, we got nothing else to talk about. And I'm not going to tell you so you can tell your friends what we're going to do this roster if you just say, I'm coming back, or, can you trade me? Because I'd like,
right.
I kind of like what's going on in Las Vegas or
New York or whatever.
Pick your destination. Here's one other quick point. Tom Brady retires today. What does that do to the market? Does that make it better for Rodgers? Because that's what, if Brady was going to go to the Dolphins or the
49ers
Raiders or the 49ers,
yeah.
Does that make it better for him? Does that make it better for David Carr? Derek Carr.
Does it make it better for
Derek
Jordan
Carr.
Love?
Maybe even David Carr.
Right?
But Derek Carr, yeah,
Any
Jordan
car.
Love, yeah.
4-door car.
Yeah. That's a huge opening. It wrecks the Buccaneers.
Right.
But that's interesting. When a player that big leaves, that means everybody else moves up, moves over. That it's musical chairs, and one huge chair just opened up right now.
But I still think Rodgers is, as most people said, it's 2 first rounds, one this year, one that's conditional if he plays again. And now maybe it adds you a 3rd round or a 4th round or something along that. I don't think it adds a ton, but I still think it's something that you can work with.
But imagine Aaron Rodgers sitting there at 39 years old and watching all these 25-year-old quarterbacks going to the conference championship games.
Right. I agree. And, oh, by the way, you got, Mahomes is not, but all those to the championship games, all those guys are under rookie contracts.
Yeah.
And those teams have a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
And the Packers don't. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. Stay tuned. We're going to get into the Super Bowl coming up here shortly and start to make some picks. We'll continue with the conversation, though, coming up here over the next few minutes. We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Hang in there. Got a couple more segments to go. The final couple segments of the Bill Michaels Huddle for this season coming up next.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
A couple segments to go for the Huddle, the remainder of the season. It's been a hell of a season. It's been a fun season. Good to have you. And Mike Clemens alongside. I'm Bill Michaels. And with, a lot of people listening tonight and saying good discussion, a lot of insight and such. But in the grand scheme of things, as much as I want to look at player personnel and I want to say, okay, you need this guy, you need that guy, you need this person, I also said I think this upcoming season, if Rodgers does come back, is as much about coaching as it is about the players and the weapons they have.
It's funny, heading into year 3, at a mini camp. I saw Matt LaFleur walk right by me. And you know something? It was kind of like, I'm going to do this differently this year. You know,
Uh-huh.
there was just, he looked a little different, had a little bit more of a tan, had some new coaching clothes on, new shoe kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he kind of was walking a little bit more erect, like, I'm okay. I'm the first day back with the guys, and I'm going to try and change some things. Maybe a little more forceful, a little more confident, you know?
Yeah.
3 seasons in a row, 13 wins, and we're getting close, you know? I've got enough clout now where I can start bossing these guys around, okay? I'm the boss now. It's just a vibe that I picked up on. And we were privy to some of their post-practice meetings where they break down, they huddle up, and you know he's out there yelling and screaming and challenging and dropping some 4-letter words and things like that. And you know, when I asked him that one question toward the end of the season, I said, "Do you know about Lombardi time?" He looked at me like, "Is this some kind of a trick question?"
Right.
And he said, "Yeah, I know about it." He's only 40
Right.
years old, 41, 42. And he said, no. He says, matter of fact, he said, that's one of our, he said, we don't have a lot of rules around here, but that's one of our biggest ones. You will not be late. You won't be late. So, I'm looking for the disciplinarian, you know?
Right.
And I see guys, when you're talking in the locker room, they look up the screen and they see that it's, 2:27, like, oh, blank, the next meeting's at 2:30, 2:35.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry, I got to get going. They start running down the hallway. You want that kind of attention. There's got to be some sort of fear in these guys, because it's interesting when Quay Walker, after 2 months into the season, and he feels a little more confident about saying things. He doesn't want to say the wrong thing, despite, the fights he picks in games and gets himself ejected. But he said, I can't believe how much free time I've got. What? You're in the NFL. What do you mean free time?
Right.
You're in season. You're 500. No, it's just I don't have to worry about classes. And I started talking to veterans about that. I said, does he understand if he gets home at 3:00 in the afternoon after being there since 6:30 in the morning, lift weights, have breakfast, and the first meeting's at 7:30? Does he understand he can go home and goof off on a video game for an hour, but he's got to get back onto the playbook? Does he understand that? I mean, I shouldn't be looking at more tape than this guy.
Right.
And so, and then I asked around about the organization. I said, why are these times so weird in the schedule? And I said, because he wants to get those guys out of it. That's the deal that he makes. I'm not going to waste your time. We're not going to drag it out. The meetings will be to the point, but you better be taking good notes. You better have this memorized by tomorrow. And then you can have more free time to rest your body, rest your mind, get longer sleeps at night, be with your family, whatever you got to do. But you've got, then you hear from other coaches, like when Mike White was still with the Packers, and he said, Rashawn Gary's texting me at 11:00 at night. Hey, what about this?
Right.
And I'll call him back and we'll talk for a half hour. And he picked up on something. Maybe I even missed. That's the hunger that you need in order to win. And if that's not going around, then you end up sitting at home this time of year.
Yeah.
And you go 8-9. And my sense is LaFleur is wrestling on finding that. And because I don't think he's there. I can't explain it, but I don't have any evidence to the other to prove it the other way.
Perception became a reality for a lot of people, that you listen to his pressers and kind of answering the question, kind of not sounding soft, protecting guys, never ever calling out Aaron, and you kind of like, oh, who's running the joint? You kind of, if you just listen from the outside in, and you're kind of like, where did that guy go? That's kind of ran down and got in Rodgers' face in year one.
It's like the Zach Taylor story I told you the other day. Zach Taylor, and it's like known in Cincinnati that this guy literally surfs the internet looking for the next slogan to put on the wall.
Right.
Looking for the next thing that makes guys think. And he goes back to a 30-year-old film like a Bronx Tale about a mafia guy that's, got his own band of 5 or 6 guys. A bunch of thugs walk into a bar, biker thugs, if you will, and they start abusing the bartender and getting him wet. And the guy says, all right, lock the door. They lock the door and they get out baseball bats and they beat the hell out of these thug bikers.
Right.
And intimidate them and say, don't ever come back into this town again. And Zach Taylor, the lights come up and there's Louisville Sluggers for every player on the Bengals team, to understand we're in a fight, we're in a brawl. And I never hear those stories for the last 3 years. I haven't heard one. McCarthy came up with a couple during his time here. Remember the Super Bowl year where he finally said, look, enough of just going to the playoffs. We got to finish this thing. And you look in the auditorium and there's all these different pictures of various Super Bowl winning teams for the Green Bay Packers. And then there's an empty frame.
Right.
And he says, that's where the next picture goes. Who's going to put a picture up there? Or the night before the Super Bowl, 45, he has them all around a piano in the ballroom and says, oh, here, I've got a little station over here. After you get your fruit, after you get something to drink, we're going to have a little team meeting. Go over to hear this lady because she's going to size you for your ring.
For your ring, yeah.
Have you heard one of those stories in 3.5 years?
Not a one. Not a one.
Well, that stuff works.
Not a one. You get the
It's not corny.
You get the motivational stuff after the fact where he's handing out game balls or whatever, but that post-game speeches, but you don't get that. I agree. You don't get that. Let's talk about the Super Bowl upcoming. Kansas City and Philadelphia. We'll discuss coming up next on the Bill Michaels Huddle.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes.
Black and silver.
Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Can't say thanks enough to Bud Light for being a part of the program. 22 years we've been all together. So thanks to Bud Light for bringing the Huddle each and every year as well. We certainly appreciate their partnership and presence and such. Mike Clemens alongside Ben Kenny back in the studio. Now with, the 6-7 minutes we have, Mike, the Chiefs and Eagles are going to go at it out in Arizona, Super Bowl 57, Glendale, Arizona at State Farm Stadium. You and I are going to be on the ground Saturday as we start to begin our coverage of that event. And, Philadelphia favored in this one early on. Give me your thoughts on this matchup.
What's the point spread?
1.5.
I look for the best story,
Yeah.
And I couldn't decide the 4 teams that were left, which were the 2 that fresh story that I'd like to cover.
Yeah.
Cover the 49ers now several times at the Super Bowl, etc. But to me, the best story is Andy Reid gets back and beats the team that let him go after 14 years.
That's the story
Yeah. I think that's the best story.
Yeah. You just put a dagger through the heart of one Ben Kenny, the Philadelphian.
Who cares?
Ben, you're so
frankly, I think that story stinks.
No, I'm just, the Eagles, tremendous roster that they've built. Ari Roseman, that's a story in itself. Like, how does this guy survive Chip Kelly, go up through the ranks, right?
Yeah.
You
tend to try to forget about the Chip Kelly days.
And how he's been able to, keep dancing as fast as he can for Jeff Lurie, who I don't think Lurie's got a quick hook on people. I mean, look how many opportunities he gave Andy Reid.
Yeah.
But to reinvent this team and go through a new head coach and all that other stuff that he's done. And Andrew Brandt worked with him at one time, like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
The longtime Packers vice president. They were both former agents together. So that's a great story how he's rebuilt that. And I think he's shown a lot of general managers, that you can win a Super Bowl and then rebuild and redial and agency and move guys around, get another great seemingly veteran punch in there. So that's not a bad story. In terms of what's actually going to happen in the game, it's a really tough offensive line that the Eagles have got. No question about it. How they were, dealing with the 49ers. Dickerson looks like he's going to be able to play. He's got an elbow injury, so they should be, relatively healthy on that line. The Chiefs had an easy go of it. Bengals offensive.
Yep.
Chris won't come close to that up against this Eagles line. I don't know, because there's a lot of really good football guys who say, look at what the Eagles were doing, was rolling over people all year long. Jalen Hurts he's a running quarterback, 11 rushes in the last game against the 49ers. He's got to throw the football, but does he look 100% with some of his passes coming off the shoulder injury? I'm not so sure.
That's a great question. There was a couple of throws were right on the money, and a couple of throws were a little off. But I haven't watched Jalen Hurts in every pass all season long.
I don't think he's 100%, but I don't think he's that negatively affected by it. I think what we saw last Sunday was more just the Niners being a great defense than anything. Like, he missed a couple throws, but it's also that they just didn't have the normal space they normally have in the flats and deep. They just played a good game on defense, so it was hard.
Yeah, and they knew how to take out A.J. Brown, too. Right?
Yeah. I also think, it's a different game because Joe Burrow, for as good as he is, he's not a runner. He can run, but he's not a runner, where Jalen Hurts is elusive. He's not easy to bring down. So you're right, Chris Jones is going to have the same type of monster game.
Steve Spagnuolo come up with one of these intimidation quarterbacks, come up with a game plan for a running quarterback like this. I'd be curious to see how the Chiefs against the ball when we played. Same kind of comparison,
right?
But what that performance. At the end of the day, I still favor Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, winning. Old school quarterback making great throws over an Eagles team that I could see, get a little nervous under the gun. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if the Eagles. They've been so physical with all the games that they've won, but this is a big game.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big game, and Andy Reid's a pretty smart coach, and it should be a good game. Should be a good game. Should be a game that's probably 26-24 kind of a thing.
I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit bigger. I've got if I'm going to put my money on the Eagles,
More scoring.
or if I'm going to put, I think there's going to be more scoring than that. But also, I'll
The other big question mark is the Chiefs wide receiver group too.
right. Everybody's banged up. Short of, I think they got 2 right now.
MVS gets the MVP.
Yeah, right. What? Oh my goodness! How would that be? Hey, did you see Twitter blow up when he started catching passes and caught the touchdown pass? And how he couldn't get a ball thrown to him in Green Bay, but he can dominate a game. And it was just like, wow.
Yeah, in the cold.
In the cold.
20-degree temperatures. In Green Bay temperatures.
Yeah, that was. But Kansas City comes in banged up. Andy Reid's got the experience. Mahomes got the experience. See what Jalen Hurts does under this type of spotlight. All that kind of stuff. I like Nick Sirianni. I think he's a really solid coach, and I think they're probably the more Philadelphia's the more well-rounded team,
sure,
talent-wise. Wouldn't you agree, Ben?
I would. I messaged this today. I think the Chiefs have the best 3 players in the game: Mahomes, Kelsey, Chris Jones.
Yes,
but I think the next 15 on that list are all Eagles on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Well, and the Pro Bowl voting would indicate that as well.
Yeah.
The Chiefs receivers, that's going to be a question mark. Special teams, that's kind of a toss-up.
The Eagles punter sucks.
Yeah.
So he could cost them a game.
Yeah.
Both kickers are pretty good, though.
Well, what the hell? Sirianni goes for it so often on 4th down. Who needs a punter?
Yeah. Mike, good stuff, man.
Thank you, brother.
Next time we talk will be on Friday, and then we'll be jumping on a plane together and heading out to Arizona.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. Ben Kenny produced the program. For everybody that's been a part of the program all season long, and the Bill Michaels Huddle, it's our final one. And the next time we all get together will be on Friday. We'll be at Stoley's Hog Alley out in Oconomowoc. And then after that, Arizona, bringing you into Super Bowl 57. Until then,